Episode 14. After the police conclude that Barak's accident was simply an accident, Serhat finally confronts his wife alone. He tells her that while she slept, he spent months wondering what he had done to deserve such betrayal. Barak tearfully apologizes and begs for another chance, claiming the affair happened only once. Serhat refuses to forgive her and demands to know the identity of Kader's father. To his frustration, Barak insists that it is better if no one ever discovers the truth, forcing doctors to intervene after Serhat angrily loses control. Later, Kader asks Zainab when she will finally be able to call Barak Mum, and when she will meet her real father. Zainab promises that the answers will come soon, although she is just as desperate to learn the truth herself. Sevim tells Azra and Sihan to have a baby. Sihan thinks Azra should start IVF treatment since they can't have it naturally. He says that it is time they had a child of their own. Although Azra hesitates, Sihan tells her to begin researching fertility clinics, insisting that a baby is the only thing missing from their perfect family. That night, Zainab asks Serhat whether Barak finally revealed Kader's father. Serhat tells her that Barak refused to say a word. Unknown to them, Ilkum secretly listens to their conversation and makes up an excuse saying she forgot her math book and wants to do her assignment. However, Ilkum leaves her phone behind with Hail connected on the call so she can hear their conversation. However, Zainab quickly realizes what Ilkum is doing and changes the subject before either sister overhears the truth. Ilkum cuts the call and tells her sister that she heard them talking about their mum. As they continue talking privately, Zainab criticizes Serhat for blindly defending his family, especially Sihan, whom she believes is an abusive husband. Although Serhat insists Sihan loves Azra, he eventually agrees they are getting nowhere by arguing. Serhat reveals that he has already signed Barak's divorce papers while she was in a coma and has no intention of remaining married to her. Determined to uncover the final piece of the puzzle, he tells Zainab that he has tapped Barak's phone and is convinced that she will eventually contact Kader's father, and when she does, the truth will finally come to light. Azra grows anxious when she spots Mustafa in his truck. Arif reminds his son to stay inside the vehicle and avoid any trouble. Mustafa reassures his father that he has no intention of getting involved with anyone from the Teker family again, insisting he has learned his lesson after everything that happened. Inside the mansion, Sevim notices Azra preparing to leave late at night and questions where she is going. Thinking quickly, Azra claims that she dropped one of her earrings in Serhat's garden and wants to look for it. Sevim points out that searching in the dark is pointless and advises her to wait until morning, but Azra ignores the warning and slips out anyway. Moments later, Sihan arrives and casually asks his mother if he can borrow her mobile phone, claiming that a recent software update erased several important contacts. Sevim hands it over without suspicion, asking only that he leave it in her room before going to bed. Instead of replacing contacts, Sihan secretly calls Barak at the hospital. He tells her she made the right decision not telling Serhat anything. Barak explains that she remained silent only because she wanted to protect Serhat, adding that all she wants now is to return to the happy life they once shared before she made the biggest mistake of her life. Sihan immediately crushes her hopes. He coldly tells Barak to forget about ever returning to her old life because Serhat will never forgive what she has done. Although Barak insists that Serhat will eventually forgive her, Sihan reveals that he has already manipulated the situation by convincing Serhat that Metin was blackmailing. Shocked by how far he has gone, Barak realizes Sihan has thought of everything. He reminds Barak that there is no going back, warning that she has already lost both her marriage and her place in the Tekrar family. Meanwhile, Arif shows up. He asks Zainab to gather her belongings so they can leave together. Before Zainab can answer, Serhat steps in and explains that she cannot leave just yet. Zainab tells her father that Kader's mother has finally regained consciousness. Arif is relieved to hear the news, believing it means Kader's ordeal is finally coming to an end. However, Zainab explains that she needs to stay for a few more days because she promised herself she would only leave after safely reuniting Kader with both her mother and father. Only then, she says, will she truly have peace of mind. Understanding how important that promise is to his daughter, Arif agrees. Azra enters Mustafa's truck as she is worried that Sihan would see him. Mustafa tells her to get out of his truck before she accuses him of kidnapping her again. Azra insists that if Sihan sees him it's only going to cause problems, but Mustafa says he does not care because he did not come there for her. He came with his father to see Zainab. He then demands to know why she lied to the police and falsely accused him. Unable to explain herself, Azra asks him not to question her now. Instead, she tells him to meet her the following morning at 9 a.m. by the seaside, promising she will explain everything. Before Arif notices her, Azra quickly leaves before Arif shows up. The following day at the hospital, Barak receives another painful shock when Serhat's lawyer arrives with divorce papers. The lawyer explains that Serhat instructed him to prepare the documents just 15 days after her accident, while she was still in a coma, and had already signed his part at the time. He has now asked that Barak sign them as well. Looking at the date on the papers, Barak is devastated to realize that Serhat had already decided to end their marriage long before she regained consciousness. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Ebru nervously assumes that she is about to lose her new job because of Mustafa's confrontation with Sihan. Before Sihan can even speak, she blurts out that she was planning to resign anyway because she believes he would never keep someone from her family working at the hotel after everything that happened. To her surprise, Sihan calmly tells her that he has no intention of firing her, explaining that he knows everyone in her family is different and does not blame her for Mustafa's actions. Instead, Sihan criticizes her appearance, pointing out that she will be the first person customers will see when they enter the hotel. He tells Ebru that the worn-out shoes she is wearing are not suitable for someone representing the hotel. Sihan wants Ebru to look like someone he recommends, so he takes her shopping. At the same time, Mustafa meets Azra at the seaside as she requested. Mustafa demands to know why she falsely testified against him when he was only trying to help. Fighting back tears, Azra says she is cursed and that everyone who tries to protect her only ends up suffering because of her. Mustafa refuses to accept such an answer and presses her for the truth. Although Azra insists that Sihan has never physically beaten her, she quietly admits that he hurts her in other ways that are far more painful than a punch. Before she can explain further, she receives a call from the nursing home informing her that Sihan has stopped paying for her mother's care and that they are preparing to discharge her immediately unless the outstanding fees are settled. Shocked and panicked, Azra desperately tries to reach Sihan, fearing what will happen to her vulnerable mother. When Azra tries calling Sihan, he ignores her calls. Desperate and running out of options, she asks Mustafa if he can take her to the nursing home where her mother is staying. Without hesitation, Mustafa agrees and drives her there. Back at the mansion, the doorbell rings and Zainab answers it. To her surprise, Barak has been discharged from the hospital and has returned home. Barak orders her to fetch her handbag and medicine from the car. Zainab refuses, firmly telling her to carry her own belongings because she is not her servant. She then reminds Barak of the child she gave birth to and abandoned, like a kitten on the street. Before Barak can respond, Hyle and Ilkum rush over, overjoyed to see their mother, embracing her tightly. Sirhat also arrives and is visibly furious by Barak's return, but he swallows his anger for the sake of his daughters and remains silent. Moments later, Kader excitedly appears, delighted that her mother has finally come home. Just as she is about to run towards Barak and call her Mom, Zainab quickly intervenes, taking Kader away before anyone hears. Upset, Kader begs Zainab to let her go to her mother. Zainab gently explains that Hyle and Ilkum still do not know the truth and asks Kader not to call Barak Mom in front of them until Sirhat has spoken to his daughters. Zainab promises that she will find a way for her to spend time alone with Barak. Meanwhile, at the nursing home, Azra's mother becomes distressed and repeatedly asks to be taken back to her room. A staff member explains that they are only following instructions because Azra's husband informed them that he would no longer be paying for her care and ordered them to discharge her. Unable to believe Sihan would do such a thing, Azra frantically tries calling him again. Elsewhere, Sihan continues shopping with Ebru. Noticing that she keeps looking at the price tags, he tells her to stop worrying because he is paying for everything. He encourages her to choose whatever she likes before he changes his mind. He picks Azra Kal, who tells him she is at the nursing home and that they are throwing her mother out because they claim he has stopped paying the bills. Hoping there has been a mistake, she begs him to explain the situation to them. To Azra's horror, Sihan coldly admits there is no misunderstanding. He deliberately instructed the nursing home to discharge her mother. When Azra desperately asks what she has done to deserve this, Sihan reveals that he found the birth control pills she had been secretly taking. Feeling betrayed, he accuses her of deliberately preventing them from having the child he desperately wants. Azra tearfully apologizes and admits that she simply was not ready to become a mother yet. Unmoved by her explanation, Sihan cruelly gives her an ultimatum. She has only two choices. Either give him the child he wants or watch her mother lose her place at the nursing home. Completely trapped and with no way out, Azra breaks down and agrees to do as he wants. She pleads with Sihan to call the nursing home immediately because her mother does not understand what is happening. Sihan calmly tells her that he will transfer the money right away. Relieved that her mother will not be abandoned, Azra informs the nursing home staff that the payment will be made shortly. After confirming the arrangement, a nurse arrives to wheel her mother back to her room, allowing Azra to breathe a small sigh of relief despite the terrible price she has just agreed to pay. Back at the mansion, Zainab struggles to contain her anger after Barak's return. She confesses to Sirhat that it took everything she had not to grab Barak by the collar and demand to know why she had failed Kader as a mother and abandoned her on the streets. Sirhat urges her to be patient, insisting that this is not the right time. However, Zainab refuses to stay silent, pointing out that while everyone is protecting Barak's feelings, Kader is the one truly suffering. Heartbroken, she reminds Sirhat that the little girl is crying because she longs for her mother, adding that no child should have to endure such pain. Meanwhile, Sihan pays for all the clothes and shoes he has picked out for Ebru. Looking at the expensive shopping bags, Ebru thinks that if Zainab ever found out another man had bought her all these things, her sister would pinch her to death. She thinks that having a rich husband must be wonderful. Sihan quickly corrects her, making it clear that he is not the rich husband. He bluntly tells Ebru not to misunderstand his generosity because he will never divorce Azra and marry her. He advises her not to get her hopes up so that she will not be disappointed or offended later. Annoyed by his assumption, Ebru immediately fires back, saying she never implied she wanted to marry him in the first place. She sarcastically tells Sihan not to flatter himself, adding that although he may have an unlimited credit card, he is only an average-looking man and is nowhere near as charismatic as Serhat. Her blunt remark leaves Sihan speechless. Smirking, Ebru asks him whether the truth hurts. Episode 15. Meanwhile, Serhat finally comes face to face with Barak in private. He tells her that while she was unconscious, someone broke into the mansion, stole the bag of cash she had hidden and assaulted Zainab before escaping. Shocked, Barak admits that the money had originally been meant for Sadef, explaining that she had intended to give it to her before everything spiraled out of control. She tearfully insists she never wanted anyone to get hurt. Serhat, however, refuses to listen to her excuses. Furious, he blames her for dragging innocent people into the consequences of her actions and tells her she is fortunate that nothing bad happened to Zainab during the attack. Serhat then makes his intentions crystal clear. He tells Barak that they will inform Hayal and Ilkum that they are getting divorced, but without revealing the real reason behind the separation. He refuses to destroy their daughter's image of their mother. He also reveals that he intends to seek full custody of both girls, insisting they are better off with him. Barak refuses to accept the end of their marriage. She firmly declares that she will not sign the divorce papers and insists she will make Serhat forgive her. Trying to justify herself, she argues that many men cheat on their wives and are eventually forgiven, saying countless couples rebuild their marriages after infidelity. She believes the same should be possible for her and asks why a woman cannot be forgiven for making one mistake. Her words only disgust Serhat even more. He tells her that what she did was far more than a simple mistake and demands, once again, that she reveal the identity of Kader's father. Barak stubbornly refuses. Instead, she claims Serhat should be grateful because she could easily have lied and pretended that Kader was his daughter but chose not to. Her shocking remark leaves Serhat speechless with anger. He asks if she seriously expects him to thank her for destroying their lives and accuses her of completely losing touch with reality. The confrontation reaches a terrifying climax when Barak quietly writes a short note on a paper before walking over to Serhat's safe. She opens it, takes out his gun and points it at her own chest. Declaring that she would rather die than face what will happen after Serhat reads what she has written, she prepares to pull the trigger. Horrified, Serhat desperately begs her to put the gun down. When she refuses, he quickly intervenes, stopping her before she can shoot herself. Holding the gun away from her, he tells Barak that their daughters have already suffered enough because of her actions and that he will not allow them to experience the pain of losing their mother as well. Through tears, Barak quietly asks Serhat to tell Hayal and Ilkum that she loves them very much. Serhat refuses to let her give up, determined that she will live to face the consequences of everything she has done. A gunshot is fired. Zainab rushes to Serhat's study, where she finds him holding the gun. The bullet has struck the window after Serhat managed to stop Barak from turning the weapon on herself. Furious and shaken, Serhat tells Barak that he will not let her die because he refuses to allow their daughters to suffer another devastating loss because of her actions. Before leaving, Serhat picks up the note Barak had written. It contains only 3 words: "I love you." Without showing any emotion, he crushes the paper in his hand, throws it back in Barak's face and walks out, making it clear that her words no longer mean anything to him. Zainab then confronts Barak herself. She asks whether it is still not enough that so many innocent people have been forced to carry the burden of her mistakes. Looking at her with disappointment, Zainab questions what kind of mother she is before walking away. Outside the study, she urges Serhat not to keep the gun inside the house anymore, fearing another tragedy could happen. Later, Barak calls Sadef and tells her she expects her to come over because they have many things they need to discuss now that she has returned home. Meanwhile, Savim unknowingly praises Barak for waking up at exactly the right time. She complains that the nanny Serhat hired is completely unsuitable and worries that the girls could be negatively influenced by her. Confidently, Barak replies that her daughters will never be influenced by anyone but their own mother. Remembering how much Serhat always disliked having strangers living in the house and how he had once refused to let her hire a live-in maid, Barak assumes he must be uncomfortable with Zainab staying there. To her surprise, Savim tells her the exact opposite is true. The revelation leaves Barak visibly shaken as she realizes Zainab has become far more important in the household than she imagined. Unable to carry the burden alone any longer, Serhat later opens up to Khan about everything that has happened. He reveals that Barak still refuses to tell him who Kader's father is and even threatened to take her own life rather than reveal the truth. Khan offers to speak to Barak herself, although she admits that even in the past Barak never confided in her about the secret she has been protecting. Meanwhile, determined to keep the promise she made to Kader, Zainab quietly takes the little girl to Barak's room while no one else is around. At last, Kader is able to see her mother alone. Fighting back tears, she asks why Barak did not hug her the way she hugged Hail and Ilkham. She proudly shows Barak a drawing she made of the two of them together, explaining that she wanted to draw her father too but could not because she does not know who he is. With heartbreaking innocence, Kader tells Barak that she has never been angry with her for leaving her alone and that she has always loved her, no matter what happened. Overwhelmed with guilt, Barak breaks down in tears. Instead of embracing her daughter, she painfully tells Kader not to love her at all. She says Kader should hate her instead because she does not want to be her mother. Confused and heartbroken, Kader reminds Barak about the doll she once gave her as a gift, believing it was proof that her mother loved her. Barak quietly tells her that she never bought the doll for her. The painful rejection shatters Kader, and through tears, the little girl walks away, leaving both herself and Barak devastated. Kader returns to her room heartbroken after her painful meeting with Barak. In tears, she throws away the doll she has treasured for so long. When Zainab finds her, she is shocked to see Kader rejecting the toy she once loved so dearly. Kader sadly explains that she no longer wants it because her mother admitted she was never the one who bought it. Confused, Zainab asks who told her that. Kader tearfully reveals that Barak said she never bought the doll and told her that she does not want to be her mother. Fighting back tears, Kader asks the heartbreaking question of why her own mother does not love her. Unable to bear seeing the little girl in so much pain, Zainab hugs her tightly. Meanwhile, Barak sits alone looking at the drawing Kader had lovingly made for her. Before she can gather her thoughts, Zainab storms into her room in a rage, calling her a monster. Barak demands to know what she is doing there and orders her to leave, but Zainab refuses to be silenced. She reminds Barak that she gave birth to Kader only to throw her away like trash. She tells her how the family who raised Kader forced the little girl to work, beat her and treated her cruelly. Although the bruises on Kader's body have finally healed, Zainab says the wounds left on her heart will remain forever because of Barak's actions. Zainab goes on to reveal that despite everything she endured, Kader never hated her. Instead, she loved Barak unconditionally. She confesses that it was actually her who bought the doll and pretended it was from her so Kader would believe her mother cared about her. Looking at Barak in disgust, Zainab asks whether she is finally happy now that she has taken even that small comfort away from Kader. Taking the drawing Kader had made with so much love, Zainab tells Barak she already knows what kind of mother she is, a heartless, soulless woman who does not deserve Kader's love. She curses Barak before storming out. Later, Sadef visits Barak, surprised that she has returned home so quickly. She admits she never expected Barak to leave the hospital so soon, or at all, and wonders how Serhat agreed to let her come back. Barak confidently replies that the bond between her and Serhat is much stronger than Sadef imagines and cannot be broken so easily. Barak then reveals the real reason she invited Sadef over. Reminding her that she once said Serhat deserved someone like her, Barak encourages Sadef to pursue him. Shocked, Sadef refuses to discuss such a thing, wondering if Barak is still under the influence of painkillers. Barak insists she is perfectly serious. She tells Sadef to sleep with Serhat, believing that if Serhat cheats on her too, he will finally understand what it means to make a mistake and forgive her own betrayal. Sadef cannot believe what she is hearing and tells Barak she has completely lost her mind. Barak insists she has nothing left to lose. If Serhat truly falls in love with Sadef, she says she will accept it. But if he later regrets it and calls it a mistake, then perhaps he will finally forgive hers. Sadef warns Barak not to regret pushing her towards Serhat, but Barak calmly replies that only time will tell. Elsewhere, Zainab finds herself wondering how Serhat ever fell in love with someone like Barak. Curious, she asks him whether it was simply because Barak was beautiful. Serhat asks why she wants to know. Zainab replies that she cannot understand how anyone could fall in love with a woman with no soul. Serhat gently asks whether she has ever been in love herself. Zainab avoids the question, insisting the conversation is about him, not her. Serhat tells her that if she had truly been in love, she would know there is never a logical reason for it. Meanwhile, Sihan continues controlling every aspect of Azra's life. He tells her to buy ovulation test kits because he wants her to become pregnant as soon as possible. Azra quietly agrees. When Savim calls Sihan away to help her with something, Azra secretly checks his phone and is stunned to discover that he has been looking through Ebru's social media profile. The following morning, Zainab prepares sausages for Kader, hoping to cheer her up. Kader refuses to eat, saying she no longer wants anything. Zainab tries encouraging her by promising to buy her a brand new doll if she finishes her meal, but Kader quietly replies that she does not want another doll. Meanwhile, Barak starts to manipulate her daughters. She speaks to Ilkam about swimming after calling her coach. The coach revealed that Ilkam had neglected her training while Barak was in hospital. Ilkam explains that every time she entered the pool, she could only picture her mother lying unconscious in the pool the day they saw her. Feeling guilty, Barak blames herself for affecting her daughter's future. Ilkam quickly reassures her that she never meant that and reminds her mother she still trains every day at home and attends all her swimming sessions. Barak is relieved and encourages her to keep working towards the medal she once promised to win. Barak then visits Hyle and immediately notices that her face looks puffier than before. Although Hyle insists nothing is wrong, Barak orders her to step onto the scales. Seeing that Hyle has gained weight, she is visibly disappointed. Hyle tearfully explains that she coped with the stress of her mother's accident by eating. Rather than comforting her, Barak lectures her daughter, saying difficult moments will always happen in life and she cannot allow herself to lose control every time she is sad. She asks about the dress she bought for Hayal and is surprised to learn that Zeynep had suggested taking it to a tailor so it could be altered. Berrak dismisses the idea, asking Hayal whether she intends to listen to a stranger instead of her own mother. She then asks Hayal for a gift, to lose 2 kilograms every month. Hayal agrees. Later, Hayal and Ilkum sit quietly in the living room looking miserable. Even Kader remains withdrawn. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, Zeynep decides something has to change. She cheerfully announces that everyone is going outside for what she calls the world's cheapest and most effective group therapy. Curious, the children follow her into the garden, where she gets them cleaning, laughing and playing games together. Before long, smiles finally return to their faces. Ilkum happily admits it was the most fun she has had in a long time. Watching from a distance, Serhat cannot help smiling as he sees the children laughing again. Upstairs, however, Berrak silently watches the joyful scene from the staircase, her expression growing increasingly uneasy. At the hotel, Ebru tells Sihan that she was surprised by how mature he was to admit his mistake after Azra apologized to Mustafa. Confused, Sihan asks what she means. Ebru explains that Azra apologized to Mustafa the previous day. Realizing his wife secretly met Mustafa behind his back, Sihan's expression immediately darkens. Meanwhile, Sadef secretly puts the next stage of Berrak's plan into motion. She arranges for Serhat to be called to room 10 under the false pretense that there is a private problem, requiring his attention. As soon as he leaves, 2 employees whisper that Sadef deliberately created the situation to lure Serhat to the room. Ebru overhears their conversation. Back at the mansion, Berrak approaches Kader and gently asks whether she would like to go to the park and eat cotton candy together. Excited, Kader asks Zeynep for permission. Berrak immediately questions why Kader is asking Zeynep instead of her own mother. Although uneasy, Zeynep allows Kader to go but warns Berrak that if the little girl comes home crying again, she will strangle her. Shortly afterwards, Ebru calls Zeynep. She teasingly asks whether Zeynep has feelings for Serhat because the answer will determine whether the news she has is good or bad. When Zeynep tells her to get to the point, Ebru reveals that Sadef tricked Serhat into meeting her alone in a hotel room. Zeynep insists she does not care because Serhat is not the sort of man who would betray his principles simply because a woman invited him upstairs. Ebru reminds her that Berrak cheated on Serhat and suggests he might be tempted to get revenge. Although Zeynep firmly insists it does not concern her, she cannot stop herself from thinking about Serhat after ending the call. Inside the hotel room, Sadef opens the door to Serhat and reveals a candlelit dinner complete with wine. Admitting she deliberately tricked him into coming, she tells Serhat there is no point wasting time with meaningless flirting because they are both adults. Serhat calmly replies that he understands exactly why she invited him there. Sadef then asks him the question she has been waiting to ask: doesn't he want revenge on Berrak? Meanwhile, at the park, Berrak pushes Kader on the swings and asks whether she would like to spend time together like this every day. Kader excitedly says she would love that. Berrak then asks if she would like to hug her and call her Mum, without worrying about anyone seeing them. Kader happily nods. Berrak tells her she wants that too, but claims she cannot do it while they are living in the mansion because Hayal, Ilkum, Savim, Azra and Sihan are always around. She then plants a dangerous idea in Kader's mind, saying that if they lived together in another house, she could be Kader's mother every single day. Kader asks whether Zeynep would come with them. Barak quietly replies that she would not. She tells Kader that sometimes people have to make difficult choices, and if she chooses to be with her mother, she will have to give up Zainab. Innocently believing she can finally have the mother she has always dreamed of, Kader agrees. Moments later, Tulay and Erkan arrive. Barak tells Kader to go with them, assuring her they will not mistreat her anymore because now she has her mother to protect her. Although frightened, Kader reluctantly leaves with them. A short while later, Zainab sees Barak returning alone and immediately asks where Kader is. Without any emotion, Barak calmly replies that Kader has gone to her own home. We see Tulay and Erkan taking Kader to their house. Barak declares that there is now no reason for Zainab to remain at the mansion. Episode 16. At the hotel, Ebru tells Sihan that she was surprised by how mature he was to admit his mistake after Azra apologized to Mustafa. Confused, Sihan asks what she means. Ebru explains that Azra apologized to Mustafa the previous day. Realizing his wife secretly met Mustafa behind his back, Sihan's expression immediately darkens. Meanwhile, Sadef secretly puts the next stage of Barak's plan into motion. She arranges for Serhat to be called to room 10 under the false pretense that there is a private problem requiring his attention. As soon as he leaves, two employees whisper that Sadef deliberately created the situation to lure Serhat to the room. Ebru overhears their conversation. Back at the mansion, Barak approaches Kader and gently asks whether she would like to go to the park and eat cotton candy together. Excited, Kader asks Zainab for permission. Barak immediately questions why Kader is asking Zainab instead of her own mother. Although uneasy, Zainab allows Kader to go but warns Barak that if the little girl comes home crying again, she will strangle her. Shortly afterwards, Ebru calls Zainab. She teasingly asks whether Zainab has feelings for Serhat because the answer will determine whether the news she has is good or bad. When Zainab tells her to get to the point, Ebru reveals that Sadef tricked Serhat into meeting her alone in a hotel room. Zainab insists she does not care because Serhat is not the sort of man who would betray his principles simply because a woman invited him upstairs. Ebru reminds her that Barak cheated on Serhat and suggests he might be tempted to get revenge. Although Zainab firmly insists it does not concern her, she cannot stop herself from thinking about Serhat after ending the call. Inside the hotel room, Sadef opens the door to Serhat and reveals a candlelit dinner complete with wine. Admitting she deliberately tricked him into coming, she tells Serhat there is no point wasting time with meaningless flirting because they are both adults. Serhat calmly replies that he understands exactly why she invited him there. Sadef then asks him the question she has been waiting to ask: doesn't he want revenge on Barak? Meanwhile, at the park, Barak pushes Kader on the swings and asks whether she would like to spend time together like this every day. Kader excitedly says she would love that. Barak then asks if she would like to hug her and call her Mum, without worrying about anyone seeing them. Kader happily nods. Barak tells her she wants that too, but claims she cannot do it while they are living in the mansion because Hayal, Ilkam, Savim, Azra and Sihan are always around. She then plants a dangerous idea in Kader's mind, saying that if they lived together in another house, she could be Kader's mother every single day. Kader asks whether Zainab would come with them. Barak quietly replies that she would not. She tells Kader that sometimes people have to make difficult choices, and if she chooses to be with her mother, she will have to give up Zainab. Innocently believing she can finally have the mother she has always dreamed of, Kader agrees. Moments later, Tulay and Erkan arrive. Barak tells Kader to go with them, assuring her they will not mistreat her anymore because now she has her mother to protect her. Although frightened, Kader reluctantly leaves with them. A short while later, Zeynep sees Barak returning alone and immediately asks where Kader is. Without any emotion, Barak calmly replies that Kader has gone to her own home. We see Tulay and Erkan taking Kader to their house. Barak declares that there is now no reason for Zeynep to remain at the mansion. Zeynep is horrified when she discovers that Kader is missing and immediately demands to know what Barak has done. Barak claims that Kader wanted to return to her old home and insists she simply let her go. Refusing to believe her, Zeynep reminds Barak that Kader was abused, beaten and often left hungry in that house. She demands to know what Barak said to convince the little girl to return. Barak dismisses her concerns, insisting Kader is safe and suggesting she can visit her on the way home if she wants. Serhat is equally shocked when he learns that Barak called Tulay and Erkan to take Kader. Furious, he reminds Barak that Kader was afraid when she saw them at the house recently. Barak insists that they would never hurt Kader again, because her real mother is now watching over her. Zeynep angrily asks when Barak has ever acted like a mother to Kader. Blaming herself for trusting Barak, she vows to bring Kader back immediately. Serhat decides to accompany her. Meanwhile, Sihan confronts Azra after discovering she secretly met Mustafa. Revealing that Ebru informed him about the meeting, Sihan accuses Azra of constantly deceiving him. He cruelly announces that he has handed the security footage of the fatal accident she caused to the police and tells her she will soon be arrested for killing a man. Terrified, Azra begs him for forgiveness, insisting it was only an accident, but Sihan refuses to listen. Moments later, police officers arrive and place Azra under arrest. As they lead her away in handcuffs, she desperately pleads that the incident was an accident. Sihan watches without sympathy while Azra breaks down, begging him not to abandon her mother at the nursing home because she would never survive on the streets. He heartlessly replies that her mother is barely alive anyway. Falling to her knees, Azra begs him to have mercy, promising she will never disobey him again. After watching her suffer, Sihan finally calls the officers back and reveals that they are not real policemen but actors he hired from an agency. He admits the entire arrest was staged to frighten her into obedience, warning that this is exactly what awaits her if she ever betrays him again. At Tulay and Erkan's house, Zeynep begs Kader to come home with her. To her shock, Kader refuses. Believing the little girl is too frightened to speak honestly in front of Tulay, Zeynep reassures her that she has nothing to fear. However, Kader explains that she wants to stay because Barak promised she would finally be her if she remained there. Zeynep realizes that Barak manipulated the child into believing she had to choose between them. Fighting back tears, she promises Kader she could never be angry with her and leaves. Before leaving, Serhat warns Tulay that if her and her husband lay a finger on Kader again, he will destroy both of them. On the drive back, Zeynep angrily tells Serhat that Barak has deliberately manipulated an innocent child. Zeynep tells Rifika that she will be returning home this evening. Her mother asks if she would like anything prepared for dinner. Zeynep politely declines. When Serhat asks whether she has really decided to leave without discussing it, Zeynep reminds him that she only stayed because of Kader. Since Kader is no longer at the mansion, she sees no reason to remain. She also reminds him that he was the one who originally wanted her gone from his life. Serhat points out that she once wanted exactly the same thing. Episode 17. Back at the mansion, Zeynep and Serhat confront Barak over manipulating Kader. Barak demands respect, but Zeynep refuses to stay silent, calling her heartless and even wishing she had died instead of making Kader suffer this way. Barak coldly informs Zainab that her belongings have already been packed and tells her to leave the house immediately. Although Serhat objects, Zainab decides she no longer wants to remain in the same house as Barak. Carrying her luggage, she walks away while Serhat quietly calls after her. She pauses briefly to look back at him before continuing. Once Zainab leaves, Serhat yells at Barak to sit down and listen. Meanwhile, Mustafa arrives with his truck to pick Zainab up. As he waits outside, Azra notices him from the window. Mustafa smiles at her, but she immediately shuts the window without responding. When Zainab reaches him, she breaks down in tears and hugs him, explaining that she will tell him everything about Kader on the way home as he asked what happened. After Zainab leaves, Serhat explodes at Barak. He accuses her of treating Kader like a burden simply because she reminds him of her betrayal. Barak shamelessly admits that she does not love Kader because she is not Serhat's daughter and therefore means nothing to her. Furious, Serhat reminds her that Zainab has no biological connection to Kader either, yet she loves the little girl unconditionally. She tells Serhat that she cannot compare herself to Zainab as she is from the slums. Serhat orders her to sign the divorce papers and leave his house. Barak refuses to be intimidated. She points out that Serhat prepared the divorce papers while she was still in a coma and claims he is the one destroying their family. She warns that if he tells their daughters about the divorce, she will expose his own mistakes, including the night he spent with Sadef. Serhat is stunned by her accusation. Elsewhere, Sihan pressures Azra into using an ovulation kit, insisting they must have a baby as soon as possible. Although clearly uncomfortable, Azra reluctantly agrees after he reminds her they had promised to keep trying. Determined to move forward, Serhat calls Emil and orders her to pack his belongings and send them to the hotel. He also phones Hayal and asks her and Ilkum to meet him there because he has something important to tell them. Left alone, Barak breaks down. She stands fully clothed beneath a running shower as memories of Serhat and Zainab's harsh words replay in her mind. Later that evening, Serhat gathers Hayal and Ilkum at the hotel, intending to tell them that he and Barak are divorcing. Before he can explain, Savim calls Hayal in a panic, claiming Barak has suddenly fallen ill with a high fever after being left alone. Worried for their mother, the girls rush back to the mansion. When they arrive, Barak pretends to be weak and ill. Savim asks Serhat if he called the doctor, but Barak tells her that she simply needs her family around her. Hayal and Ilkum promise not to leave her side again. When Ilkum mentions that Zainab had made her a healing herbal tea before, Barak quickly interrupts, telling the girls that both Zainab and Kader are gone and will no longer be part of their lives. Although Hayal admits she had grown fond of Kader and Ilkum says she enjoyed having Zainab around because she made the house fun, Barak twists their words to make herself appear like the victim. Serhat tells the girls that he will be staying at the hotel that night. When they ask why he is leaving home, Barak deliberately puts on a performance, cheerfully telling him that if he wants a divorce, then they can divorce, but begging him not to treat her this way. Confused and frightened, Ilkum asks what they are talking about, while Hayal breaks down in tears and desperately begs her father to explain what he means by divorce. Unable to calm his devastated daughters, Serhat is forced to postpone telling them the truth. Ebru brings Zainab a cup of tea, hoping to cheer her up after everything that has happened. While they are talking, Ebru reveals shocking news, telling Zainab that Barak somehow knows about Serhat's encounter with Sadef. Zainab immediately dismisses the idea and asks Ebru not to be ridiculous. However, Ebru insists that she heard it with her own ears. According to her, Sadef gave Barak a minute-by-minute account of everything that happened. Zainab cannot understand how that is even possible and wonders why Barak would do something like that. Ebru believes the answer is obvious. Barak wanted to even the score with Serhat after he asked for a divorce. Zainab shrugs the matter off, saying it has nothing to do with them, but Ebru cannot hide her disgust. She says she has met many bad people in her life, but Barak is on another level altogether, joking that she is capable of making even the devil lose his way to hell. Ebru urges Zainab to tell Serhat the truth about Sadef's trap, but Zainab refuses, insisting that Serhat's private life is none of her business. Meanwhile, Serhat tries to comfort Hayal after the emotional breakdown she suffered the previous night. He tells her that he has already arranged an appointment with a specialist and promises they will overcome everything together. Before Hayal can respond, Barak interrupts, assuring her daughter that her whole family is by her side. Hayal tearfully begs her father not to divorce her mother. Barak immediately seizes the opportunity, claiming she only mentioned divorce because she was upset and insisting that they are not separating after all. Once Hayal leaves the room with Ilkum, Serhat angrily confronts Barak. He warns her never to manipulate their daughters like that again. Barak reminds him that he was the one who demanded a divorce, so she simply accepted it. Serhat fires back that they were never supposed to tell the girls this way and asks whether she realizes what she has done to Hayal. Barak refuses to take responsibility, insisting that Serhat is the one hurting the children. Furious, Serhat gives her one final warning. Either she signs the divorce papers and ends their marriage properly, or he will tell Hayal and Ilkum the real reason their family has fallen apart. Before leaving, he also informs her that he has tracked down the man who broke into the mansion on behalf of her lover. He promises that sooner or later he will find the man she has been protecting all this time. As Ebru prepares to leave for work, Zainab notices her expensive-looking dress and accessories. Curious, she asks whether she is paid an incredible salary. Ebru explains that she earns only slightly above minimum wage. She reveals that everything she is wearing came from a boutique selling imitation designer brands. Zainab warns her that it better be otherwise she will knock her off. Elsewhere, Khan pays Barak a visit. She is stunned when Khan tells her that Serhat once believed he was Kader's father. Khan explains that when Serhat discovered he knew about Kader, he misunderstood everything and thought Khan was the mysterious lover. He even came to Khan's boat carrying his father's gun, intending to shoot him. Horrified, Barak admits she never knew Serhat had gone that far. Khan sadly tells her that Serhat is no longer the man she once knew. He also blames himself for helping to keep Azra's secret hidden all these years. Barak argues that he only kept the secret because he wanted to protect Azra. Khan asks why she trusted him enough to confess everything. Barak quietly admits she desperately needed someone to share her burden with and believed he would protect her secret. Khan bitterly laughs, accusing her of pretending she acted out of respect when, in reality, she only kept Azra's secret so she could use it as blackmail to hide her own betrayal. Barak then changes the subject and asks Khan why he took the blame for Azra's accident. She wonders whether he is secretly in love with her. Khan refuses to answer, insisting that this conversation is about Serhat, not himself. Instead, he demands to know who Kader's father really is. Barak insists that his identity no longer matters, but Khan disagrees. He tells her that it matters more than she realizes. Barak remains silent, making it obvious she is terrified of the man. Khan notices her fear and promises that if she tells him the truth, he will personally deal with Kader's father once and for all so that both she and Serhat can finally be free. Even then, Barak refuses to reveal his identity. Meanwhile, a man calls Serhat with important information. He reports that Barak contacted an unknown phone number before traveling to Katalka. Convinced she is finally going to meet her lover, Serhat immediately sets off to follow her. At the same time, Azra angrily confronts Mustafa. She accuses him of pretending to be a good man while boasting to his family that she came begging for forgiveness. Mustafa is completely confused and asks what she is talking about. Azra bitterly explains that because Ebru repeated everything to Sihan, he made her experience the greatest fear of her life. Mustafa is shocked to hear this. He apologizes sincerely and immediately asks whether Sihan beat her. Azra sadly replies that Sihan never raises his hand against her, but he has many other ways of hurting her. Feeling guilty, Mustafa offers to buy her a cup of tea as an apology. Azra accepts, joking that she wants it extra strong. While driving to Katalka, Serhat tells Zainab that he finally understands what she meant when she once said that he and Barak were even. He remarks that Ebru has obviously been supplying her with all the gossip from the hotel. Zainab replies that she does not care about gossip and that Serhat can do whatever he wants with whomever he likes. Curious, Serhat asks if she is not even interested in what really happened between him and Sadef in the hotel room. Zainab firmly replies that his private life is none of her concern. As they continue drinking tea together, Azra thanks Mustafa for reminding her of happier times. She fondly recalls how her father worked as a laborer and used to sell tea and pancakes from a small stall whenever they spent their summers in the village. Mustafa is genuinely surprised, admitting he always believed she came from a wealthy family. Azra explains that she was actually just a waitress when she first met Sihan at his hotel. Mustafa hesitates before asking whether she fell in love with Sihan because of his money. Azra sadly smiles and replies that, unfortunately, she truly loved him. Realizing Sevim could arrive at any moment, she decides to leave, but before walking away she begs Mustafa not to tell Ebru about their meeting. Serhat and Zainab eventually find Barak sitting alone at a cafe. Serhat sarcastically asks whether she is waiting for her lover. Barak calmly replies that she was actually waiting for him because she knows that he had tapped her phone and would follow her. She then asks why he brought Zainab along. Without hesitation, Zainab demands to know who Kader's father is. She tells Barak that if she refuses to be a mother to Kader, then the least she can do is reveal the identity of her father. Barak warns both of them that if they truly care about Kader, they should stop searching because discovering the truth will only make them even more miserable. She insists she no longer has any contact with her former lover and even offers Serhat her phone as proof since he clearly does not trust her anymore. Still unconvinced, Serhat questions the waiter and asks whether Barak made any phone calls from the cafe. The waiter nervously remains silent, prompting Serhat to demand his phone. Embarrassed, the waiter apologizes to Barak before handing it over. After checking the call history, Serhat discovers a recently dialed number. The waiter quickly explains that it belongs to his cousin and begs Serhat not to misunderstand. Serhat turns back to Barak and accuses her of deleting the real number from her own phone. He coldly tells her that she can erase whatever she wants, but he will eventually trace every number she has called. Barak insists that her phone battery died, so she borrowed the cafe phone simply to call home and check whether Hail and Ilkham had arrived safely. Serhat remains unconvinced and warns her that until he finds the man she has been protecting, she will not take a single breath without him knowing where she is. Back at Tulay's house, Kader sits sadly by the window waiting for her mother. Tulay tells her not to wait because Barak will not come that late. Moments later, however, Barak calls and asks to speak with Kader. She apologizes for not being able to visit that day but promises she will come tomorrow instead. Before hanging up, Barak quietly tells Kader not to speak to Zainab if she comes because it would upset her. Kader obediently promises not to, and Barak praises her for being a good girl. Later, Khan informs Serhat that Barak still refused to reveal Kader's father's identity. He believes she is genuinely terrified of the man. Serhat replies that by the time he finds him, both Barak and her mysterious lover will have every reason to fear him instead. Not long afterwards, Zainab visits Kader. The little girl sadly tells her to leave because she is not allowed to speak to her anymore. Zainab assumes Tulay forbade it, but Kader gently explains that it was her mother who told her not to speak to Zainab because she is now her enemy. Heartbroken, Zainab quietly leaves without saying another word. Meanwhile, Mustafa storms into the house and confronts Ebru for interfering in matters that did not concern her. Completely confused, Ebru asks what she has done wrong. Rifika also comes outside after hearing Mustafa shouting. Mustafa angrily explains that Rifika told Ebru Azra had apologized to him, and Ebru repeated everything to Sihan. As a result, Azra suffered terribly. Ebru argues that Sihan does not seem like the type of man who would abuse his wife and insists Azra must be exaggerating. Mustafa reminds her that he has repeatedly warned her about Sihan's violent behavior. Zainab joins them after overhearing the argument. Mustafa explains that Azra apologized because she falsely accused him. Zainab sadly remarks that apologizing is not enough. Azra should have withdrawn her false statement because only then would Mustafa's name truly be cleared. She then questions Ebru about why she still spends so much time with Sihan despite being warned. Ebru replies that Sihan is her employer and she cannot simply ignore him. Furious, Mustafa orders her to resign immediately. Zainab supports him, insisting she should leave that job. However, Ebru stubbornly refuses, making it clear that she has no intention of resigning. Elsewhere, Barak continues manipulating Hyle. She gently tells her daughter that after major traumas, many married couples go through periods of distance and misunderstanding. Hyle tearfully hugs her mother and asks whether everything will eventually go back to normal. Barak reassures her that it will, but only if Hyle helps save their marriage. She tells her that both she and Serhat adore her more than anyone else and that she is the only person capable of bringing the family back together. Finally, Barak quietly asks Hyle not to tell Ilkham about their conversation because she might become jealous, leaving Hyle unknowingly carrying the burden of trying to save her parents' marriage on her own. Episode 18. Small Diamond. Whilst Khan is with Barak at home, Serhat's private investigator calls Serhat with important information. He reports that Barak contacted an unknown phone number before traveling to Katalka. Convinced she is finally going to meet her lover, Serhat immediately sets off to follow her. At the same time, Azra angrily confronts Mustafa. She accuses him of pretending to be a good man while boasting to his family that she came begging for forgiveness. Mustafa is completely confused and asks what she is talking about. Azra bitterly explains that because Ebru repeated everything to Sihan, he made her experience the greatest fear of her life. Mustafa is shocked to hear this. He apologizes sincerely and immediately asks whether Sihan beat her. Azra sadly replies that Sihan never raises his hand against her, but he has many other ways of hurting her. Feeling guilty, Mustafa offers to buy her a cup of tea as an apology. Azra accepts, joking that she wants it extra strong. While driving to Katalka, Serhat tells Zeynep that he finally understands what she meant when she once said that he and Barak were even. He remarks that Ebru has obviously been supplying her with all the gossip from the hotel. Zeynep replies that she does not care about gossip and that Serhat can do whatever he wants with whomever he likes. Curious, Serhat asks if she is not even interested in what really happened between him and Sadef in the hotel room. Zeynep firmly replies that his private life is none of her concern. Small Diamond. As they continue drinking tea together, Azra thanks Mustafa for reminding her of happier times. She fondly recalls how her father worked as a laborer and used to sell tea and pancakes from a small stall whenever they spent their summers in the village. Mustafa is genuinely surprised, admitting he always believed she came from a wealthy family. Azra explains that she was actually just a waitress when she first met Sihan at his hotel. Mustafa hesitates before asking whether she fell in love with Sihan because of his money. Azra sadly smiles and replies that, unfortunately, she truly loved him. Realizing Sevim could arrive at any moment, she decides to leave, but before walking away she begs Mustafa not to tell Ebru about their meeting. Nonetheless, Serhat and Zeynep eventually find Barak sitting alone at a cafe. Serhat sarcastically asks whether she is waiting for her lover. Barak calmly replies that she was actually waiting for him because she knows that he had tapped her phone and would follow her. She then asks why he brought Zeynep along. Without hesitation, Zeynep demands to know who Kader's father is. She tells Barak that if she refuses to be a mother to Kader, then the least she can do is reveal the identity of her father. Barak warns both of them that if they truly care about Kader, they should stop searching because discovering the truth will only make them even more miserable. She insists she no longer has any contact with her former lover and even offers Serhat her phone as proof since he clearly does not trust her anymore. Small Diamond still unconvinced, Serhat questions the waiter and asks whether Barak made any phone calls from the cafe. The waiter nervously remains silent, prompting Serhat to demand his phone. Embarrassed, the waiter apologizes to Barak before handing it over. After checking the call history, Serhat discovers a recently dialed number. The waiter quickly explains that it belongs to his cousin and begs Serhat not to misunderstand. Serhat turns back to Barak and accuses her of deleting the real number from her own phone. He coldly tells her that she can erase whatever she wants, but he will eventually trace every number she has called. Barak insists that her phone battery died, so she borrowed the cafe phone simply to call home and check whether Hail and Ilkham had arrived safely. Serhat remains unconvinced and warns her that until he finds the man she has been protecting, she will not take a single breath without him knowing where she is. Back at Tulai's house, Kader sits sadly by the window waiting for her mother. Tulai tells her not to wait because Barak will not come that late. Moments later, however, Barak calls and asks to speak with Kader. She apologizes for not being able to visit that day but promises she will come tomorrow instead. Before hanging up, Barak quietly tells Kader not to speak to Zeynep if she comes because it would upset her. Kader obediently promises not to, and Barak praises her for being a good girl. Small Diamond later can inform Serhat that Barak still refused to reveal Kader's father's identity. He believes she is genuinely terrified of the man. Serhat replies that by the time he finds him, both Barak and her mysterious lover will have every reason to fear him instead. Not long afterwards, Zeynep visits Kader. The little girl sadly tells her to leave because she is not allowed to speak to her anymore. Zeynep assumes Tulai forbade it, but Kader gently explains that it was her mother who told her not to speak to Zainab because she is now her enemy. Heartbroken, Zainab quietly leaves without saying another word. Meanwhile, Mustafa storms into the house and confronts Ebru for interfering in matters that did not concern her. Completely confused, Ebru asks what she has done wrong. Rifika also comes outside after hearing Mustafa shouting. Mustafa angrily explains that Rifika told Ebru Azra had apologized to him, and Ebru repeated everything to Sihan. As a result, Azra suffered terribly. Ebru argues that Sihan does not seem like the type of man who would abuse his wife and insists Azra must be exaggerating. Mustafa reminds her that he has repeatedly warned her about Sihan's violent behavior. Zainab joins them after overhearing the argument. Mustafa explains that Azra apologized because she falsely accused him. Zainab sadly remarks that apologizing is not enough. Azra should have withdrawn her false statement because only then would Mustafa's name truly be cleared. She then questions Ebru about why she still spends so much time with Sihan despite being warned. Ebru replies that Sihan is her employer and she cannot simply ignore him. Furious, Mustafa orders her to resign immediately. Zainab supports him, insisting she should leave that job. However, Ebru stubbornly refuses, making it clear that she has no intention of resigning. Small diamond elsewhere, Barak continues manipulating Hyle. She gently tells her daughter that after major traumas, many married couples go through periods of distance and misunderstanding. Hyle tearfully hugs her mother and asks whether everything will eventually go back to normal. Barak reassures her that it will, but only if Hyle helps save their marriage. She tells her that both she and Serhat adore her more than anyone else and that she is the only person capable of bringing the family back together. Finally, Barak quietly asks Hyle not to tell Ilkham about their conversation because she might become jealous, leaving Hyle unknowingly carrying the burden of trying to save her parents' marriage on her own. Hyle attends a therapy session, where her therapist immediately notices she seems unusually anxious. Hoping to understand what is troubling her, the therapist gently asks whether something stressful has been happening in her life. Hyle explains that her mother recently suffered a terrible accident and spent months in a coma, admitting that it was an incredibly painful experience. When asked how she feels now that her mother has recovered, Hyle says she feels much better now that her mother is awake. Small diamond as the session continues, Hyle remembers the conversation she had with Barak the previous evening. Knowing Serhat intends to divorce her, Barak deliberately manipulated her daughter, telling her exactly what to say during therapy. She instructed Hyle to tell the therapist that she was terrified her parents were separating, that she could not bear the thought of their family falling apart and that she had even started thinking about hurting herself. When Hyle asked whether saying those things would make everything go back to normal, Barak assured her that only she could save their family and convince Serhat not to leave. Trusting her mother completely, Hyle repeats every word exactly as she had been instructed. The therapist immediately realizes the seriousness of the situation and later asks to speak with Serhat privately. She explains that Hyle's emotional condition has become very fragile and recommends increasing her therapy sessions to twice a week. Concerned, Serhat asks what his daughter said that worried her so much. The therapist reveals that Hyle confessed she fears her parents' divorce so deeply that she has even considered harming herself if it happens. The news leaves Serhat devastated. The therapist advises him to keep Hyle surrounded by the people she loves while they help her through this difficult period, warning that she needs stability more than anything else. Small diamond meanwhile, Ebru meets Sihan after he promises to surprise her. Smiling excitedly, She admits she barely slept because she spent the entire night wondering what he had planned. Sihan points towards his car, telling her that her surprise is waiting inside. Expecting something romantic, Ebru is stunned when the car door opens and her ex-boyfriend, Okan, is dragged out. Sihan tells her she has 5 minutes to do whatever she wants. Without hesitation, Ebru unleashes anger and pain, repeatedly slapping and punching Okan while calling him a worthless piece of trash. She screams that he has no idea what she suffered because of him and finally releases all the pain she has carried for years. Once she calms down, Sihan signals his men to take Okan away. Fighting back tears, Ebru sincerely thanks Sihan for giving her the chance to confront the man who made her life miserable. Watching everything from a distance, Tulay sees Ebru leaving in Sihan's luxury car. Remembering the expensive handbags, shoes and accessories Ebru recently bought, Tulay immediately jumps to the wrong conclusion and assumes Sihan has been buying her expensive gifts. Small diamond elsewhere, Barak visits Kader. The little girl happily runs into her mother's arms, telling her how much she missed her and confessing that she was afraid she would never come back. Instead of hugging her daughter, Barak gently pushes her away, admitting that she dislikes such clingy displays of affection. Still hoping to spend time with her mother, Kader reminds Barak that she promised to take her to the park. Barak immediately refuses, claiming she is too busy. When Kader reminds her of the promise, Barak becomes irritated and warns the little girl that if she keeps bothering her, she simply will not visit anymore. Terrified of losing her mother again, Kader quickly apologizes and promises not to ask for anything else. Trying to make her mother happy, Kader gives Barak a colorful bead necklace she made herself and tries to place it around her neck. Barak stops her, saying she will wear it later. Before leaving, Barak asks she is speaking with Zainab. Kader says no. Barak reminds her that Zainab is trying to separate them and warns her not to speak to Zainab if she comes looking for her. Wanting desperately to make her mother proud, Kader promises to obey. Small diamond back at the hotel, Serhat tells Sadef that she is fired and orders her to pack her belongings immediately. Completely shocked, Sadef asks what she has done wrong. Serhat reveals that he now controls Barak's finances and warns her she can't take money from her. He also accuses her of lying to Barak by claiming they had slept together. Realizing she has been exposed, Sadef finally admits the truth. She confesses that Barak ordered her to seduce Serhat. Although nothing happened between them, Barak wanted everyone to believe there had been an affair. Sadef admits she genuinely fell in love with Serhat and hoped he might one day return her feelings. Serhat firmly tells her there is no chance of that happening. He also warns Sadef that if Barak ever tries using that lie against him in front of their daughters, she will reveal the truth that Barak orchestrated the entire scheme herself. Rather than dismissing her completely, Serhat changes his mind. He tells Sadef she will continue working at the hotel, but from now on she works only for him and will never again carry out one of Barak's orders.